Congratulations on Witchy Ways. It's a fantastic watch. It's such a unique take on witchcraft, and the story is much more complex than just that. I guess first of all, why were you drawn to this story, and why did you want to, help tell it?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying all of that because I really appreciate it. There's a lot in this movie. There's a lot of things that I'm talking to, and I think that um each one of those things was important to me. This idea that I was learning about um witchcraft. I didn't know anything about it as being a legitimate spiritual practice until I latched onto the idea of doing a film about a witch and a ghost. And I don't know, I had sort of like drawn it out of nowhere, except that I was watching Discovery of Witches. So I,
Mm.
had this kind of like obsession for a moment. And I thought, oh, I want to do something with witches. I just love witches, but I didn't know they were practicing and real and everyday and next door to me and all of that stuff until I started researching and then started um, asking around. And I asked my neighbor. I said, oh, I think I should do a moon ritual. You want to try it with me? She's like, oh, why don't you come down and you can do it with me? And I was like, what? And it turned out she was doing moon rituals all the time. And oh, it turns out she's a witch. But I've known her for 5 years, but we never talked about it because there's a I think there's a fear that there's going to be a stigma around it. At the very least, people are going to think you're just odd or weird or something. Like, at the very worst, in some places, you can be killed for it. So still today, which I thought was incredible. And none of this I knew until I started researching. And so I thought part of me was really attracted to this because I thought this was a community of people. I've been a very strong supporter of LGBTQ stories, and all my films have had an aspect that I thought could be revealed or shown while still trying to tell a universal story. So the witch parallels of being in their broom closet as opposed to the closet, um, it really resonated with me, and I thought this is an opportunity to tell a story where I'm actually showing having a character that is a today's everyday real witch
Mhm.
and trying to make sure that people understood the basic tenets behind a practice. And all the practices vary, but the basic tenets behind it is, you care for the earth, you care for nature and the animals and the environment, and you self-empower, you set your intentions. Spells are just a way to help grow intentions, but if you don't do the work yourself, the universe isn't going to support you in it. You can't just ask for something and get it like Bing. You have to actually do the work to receive it. And like all of these things I think are great for anybody to embrace. You don't have to call yourself a witch to embrace any of that and have it be something that's a positive in your life, especially when our religion has become so warped um, in a lot of cases. So um, that really drew me to it initially, and then as I got into it and started building the characters, then I what I was learning through doing moon rituals and things like that is this idea that we do cling to things that don't help us anymore. My cousin's a life coach, and she always says people stick with the story they know, even if the story hurts them, because it's the thing they know, instead of taking the chance and exploring something new. And I think it's the same sort of idea. And I understand that, like, it's hard to walk away from, even if the rut that you're in is a rut and you like why life is passing you by, it's safety and you know what you're doing and where you're going and there's no surprises. And then making the choice to do something different is scary for people, but I think that that's a universal theme. And I think during COVID particularly,
Mhm.
people recognized in that quiet time where they couldn't go to work and there was nothing to do, that there was more, they had more interests and there's potentially more to their life than that job they were getting up and running to every morning. I have a lot of friends that did life changing, career changing moments during COVID and completely upended everything they knew and started something entirely different because they had the luxury to do it. Um, So that was something that I wanted to explore. And then Eve's relationship with her mom is a little bit like mine. So as I started developing Eve, that became a more personal story for me
Mhm.
also. So yeah.
Yeah, throughout that entire story, I think one of the bigger messages that I really resonated with was this, magic is like prayer, but you're doing something about it as well, or
Yeah.
it's in your hands. And I think your main character really embodies that because she's in the beginning, she's just going with the flow and trying to keep things stable, and then she decides to change her life. How difficult was it to get somebody that kind of represented that and was able to portray such a strong character while still being very vulnerable on screen?
Yeah, I think part of it was intuition on the energy, the energy that the actor brought to the role or just to their everyday life. I a lot of times when I'm casting, I'll know when the person opens their mouth or they walk in a certain way or just they walk in and present themselves, they have an energy that um that immediately says to me, that's the character. And I almost don't I then maybe I'll go through the audition, but I don't even actually need to. I mean, I just need to make sure they can actually act. But um, so I just think that, and then you have a good actor and a good script, and then those two things come together to help guide all the characters through their journeys. Like each character in this film has a journey that they're on. Um, they're not none. I tried very hard to make sure none of them were one linear note, even Robbie, you know, at least there's opportunity in the sequel for him to grow
Yeah.
because I'm working on a sequel. But but I mean I think that's part of uh the experience of writing the characters, and I think it starts there. If it's in the script and you get a good actor, you'll get, they'll go there. They'll just take you there.
And you talked about the mother-daughter relationship being very personal to you. How difficult is it to film those very tough scenes where they talk about that relationship? Because since it's very personal to you, how did you feel like seeing that on screen?
Yeah, it was an interesting process. I mean, there's always something personal in every film I do. But I've never really tackled my relationship with my mom sort of as head on as I did. Um, and and because my experience was my mom did have early onset Alzheimer's, and I had to deal with her for quite a while, and she did die after she fell down some stairs. Like there were a lot of parallels. Um, but that was my experience, and it wasn't Diora's. Like she didn't have a lot of I don't think she had a lot of death in her life, and she certainly didn't have the experience of having to go through an illness or particularly Alzheimer's with anybody. She'd never known anybody. So we had some really serious and intimate talks about what that felt like, how devastating it is to watch someone you love slowly lose their memory. Like the simplest things just start going out of their brain, and it's terrifying and it's heartbreaking and it's all of these things. And so, we had a couple of long talks about it, and it was interesting because there's the one scene where she says what happened,
Mhm.
and when we were rehearsing it, there was more pathos to it. And when we were shooting it, we shot it before the other scene where she talks about the Luna moth tattoo, which is a really sweet, tender scene. Um, but when we were shooting this other scene, I said to Diora, because she was going much more deeper into it, and I said, throw it all away, Diora. You're on a first date, and you're going to try to not get too far into you don't want to reveal too much of yourself yet. So just, I know we worked on it in a different direction, but just throw it away. Just tell the story. This is what happened, to be matter of fact about it. And it threw her a little bit, but in doing that, I think it made that feel more truthful, because you would probably not go too deep into something so intimate right off the bat. But I think it also helped when she got to that second scene, because she had all of this feeling that was now like caught inside that she hadn't been able to let out. And she was standing, across from Maram, who's just giving all this beautiful love and energy to her. And she surprised herself at how deep she went,
Mhm.
uh, and how emotional she got. And it was interesting because afterwards she apologized to me, and I was like, "Why are you apologizing?" I mean, I was crying. I was sitting behind the monitor, and I was just crying because it was it was so real and so true and so heart touching. And she just, I don't know why she, I don't know. I think she surprised herself at how deep she went, and how personal it felt to her.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this movie, and I think it's a fantastic watch. It is very unique in the fact that these characters are very complex, and being a witch is just, one of the many things that these characters are. So thank you very much for this film, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.